Good evening. This is Stephen here with the first list for Shortcuts, our record club here based in Sydney, Australia. The price list will go out this Wednesday, 9 p.m. That's April 30th, Sydney time. If you are not on the price list email thread and would like to be on there, drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. This is the first list in 2 weeks. We had an Easter holiday. This is a classic rock and roll, hard rock, country, and a little bit of punk list as well. And it features a number of records that are either kind of keystones in some artists' careers or iconic in their statements of intent. I'd put it like that. A few records here that are a definitive change in direction or an artistic switcheroo in the best possible way. And some iconic debut albums coming up as well. A few records that are Shortcuts kind of royalty and a few that are new. So there you go. So let's get into it. I have vinyl listening nights regularly around my house. And the last one, not this one, but the one before that, a big fan of this particular band turned up with a signed, I think an Irish copy, could be a UK copy of this record, signed by this band just before they played a concert in Ireland. I think Brian may well have said that it was their only concert in Ireland. I can't quite remember now. But both Brian and I have been in Japan recently and tried desperately to find Japanese pressings of records by this band because they sound so good. And I was delighted to see this record turn up in the box when I opened it yesterday. And it is this. It is London Calling by The Clash. Now, this is a gatefold. I believe Japan was the only country that released an official gatefold. Brian's the expert. He may well be able to disabuse me of that notion. The records themselves are on a white label, and this is the inner that comes with it. It's the Japanese first press. I don't know what else to say about this record other than it completely lives up to the hype. There's no way that we can describe The Clash as a punk band. We may as well call them a reggae band or a calypso band or a rock and roll band or a pub rock band or a punk band, I guess. I mean, pick your genre. A ska band, a rockabilly band, a dub band, you tell me. This is a band that refused to be pigeonholed. And, you know, considering the successes they had up to this point with, you know, really cool songs like White Riot, Complete Control, to come back with a double album, a sprawling double album at that, with songs being added in, like Train in Vain, after the publishers had completed the artwork, so that the track doesn't appear on the artwork but does appear on the vinyl. It should have been a disaster. I mean, it should have been an absolute catastrophe, but it wasn't. It ended up being released, I think, late 79, although I suppose a lot of people would have bought the record in 1980. And it has come to be a kind of a dear, probably a record that more people love than anything else. And that's a good thing. It's political, It's funny. It's sad. It's beautiful. You can just pick a side, pick 1, 2, 3, or 4, and every time you'll find something new to enjoy. Now, the thing about this vinyl, these whatever they did on this Japanese press, the vinyl is universally silent. I only get this record, I think, once a year, if that. It's just an absolute delight to listen to. And, it's accessible as well. And it's fun. The bass lines are manic. Just I know the producer, there are all these stories about how he would throw chairs, Guy Stevens, he would throw chairs around the room and he would provoke the band. But let's be clear, they were in a space of intense creativity. The classic songs were just popping out, everywhere. If you don't have a copy, or even if you do have a copy and you want a special copy, these Japanese pressings of London Calling are the business. The only thing is they're not cheap. And that's only because they charge me quite a lot to get them. I don't put much markup in anything at all. It's just to fund the next box. So I apologize because they're not cheap. But those of you who've bought it know it is 100% worth the purchase. Incredible record. In the top 10 of the Rolling Stones greatest albums of all time. And in fact, there's quite a few in this list that are in that list, in the Rolling Stones list. And in the genre list that follows, there's the number 1. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Beatles. But in specifics, let's talk about these 2 records. This is Please Please Me and With the Beatles. Now, what I'm going to draw your attention to is this little word in the top left corner of each of them. And there you go. The mono presses of these 2 early Beatles records. Of course, Please Please Me being the first Beatles record recorded in a single mammoth 13-hour session. Can you imagine? Smashing out the covers and under the watchful eye of George Martin. It's just an explosion onto vinyl. Obviously, this record helped launch the biggest phenomenon in any kind of pop culture, maybe any culture. I don't know. Was Beethoven bigger than the Beatles? Maybe he was, but it already has some Lennon and McCartney tracks. But now I want to just draw your attention to this, Obi. This is the 1992 final vinyl series. Highly sought after because the mono pressings are pretty bright, but they're super fun. And these are in just immaculate condition. They're like new, and they use the old black Odeon label as well. I don't know if they're translucent. I don't think they are. So, fantastic stuff. The mono presses, of course, of the early Beatles records were as nature intended. Stereo was an afterthought, and you can really tell from the panning and kind of weirdness that goes on with the panning and the kind of the stereo mixes. But these mono mixes are just huge amounts of fun. Highly recommended. And this is with the Beatles, so it doesn't have the OB, so it's going to be a little bit cheaper, but similarly perfect quality. The Beatles were still pretty much really rising stars when they released With the Beatles, which would have been in late 63. The success of Please Please Me kind of paved the way, and so as was the want, or as was the pattern back then, you went into the studio almost immediately. But at this point, the band were touring, so they were popping into the studio for whatever time they could after live shows. And you got a whole bunch of kind of Motown and rock and roll covers. Money, That's What I Want, Please Mr. Postman. The band were super tight because they were playing live all the time. They really just were The melodies were incredibly catchy. I can't remember if Please Please Me went to number one in the UK, but I know With the Beatles did for a long time. I think it was number one in the album chart for months. Can you imagine? And again, mono press, just an incredible legacy. These two records. These were the two records that they released before Beatlemania. Really, this was what led to the electricity, that led to the explosion, that led to the superstardom. When they recorded these records, they weren't superstars. They had no idea what their future was going to be, and so I think there's something about it. I also think that that's partly why this photo is so amazing. It was Robert Freeman who took this picture, and it captures a kind of a steeliness, but also definitely a sense of innocence. And again, these records they copy all of the original kind of UK Beatles markings, etc. So they're really cool. I collected all of them. I collected all the final vinyl. In fact, if you've been to my house, you've almost certainly heard me play some final vinyl, maybe Abbey Road or Let It Be, or maybe With the Beatles, which is one of my favourites. All right, this next record, I've been looking to put a decent copy of this into the list ever since I saw the Dylan movie that was released a few months back. Didn't quite do the business for Timothée Chalamet at the Oscars, but that doesn't take anything away from this record. The movie focuses in on the period where Dylan turned up in New York and transitioned from being a folkie to being a rock and roll superstar. And as I said, a lot of these records here are transitory masterpieces. You know, The Clash, certainly With the Beatles, and here you've got Highway 61 Revisited with that opening kind of tour de force that is Like a Rolling Stone. And as the movie does a pretty good job of depicting that organ driving motif in Like a Rolling Stone was played by Al Cooper, who wasn't even an organ player and just happened to be in the studio and just happened to play this. And Dylan was like, hold on a minute, that's really awesome. I think a little bit like, London Calling. Highway 61 Revisited, the critics weren't quite sure what to make of it when it first landed, but it didn't take them too long to figure it out. Whereas London Calling is kind of embraces ska and reggae and rockabilly and punk and turns it into something new. Highway 61 Revisited is kind of folk and blues, and surprisingly bluesy. When you listen to this record, there are some amazing blues tunes. Tombstone Blues, for example, is or just like Tom Thumb's Blues, amazing kind of footprint back into the blues in this record as well. It was produced by Tom Wilson, who I remember as a producer for Simon and Garfunkel. So it's kind of got a clarity to it. But I think side one, Like a Rolling Stone, Tombstone Blues, it takes a lot to laugh, it takes a train to cry, From a Buick 6 and Ballad of a Thin Man. I mean, every single one of those would make their way onto the list of my favourite Dylan songs. So there you go. The mighty Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited. I mean, I think this is another record that was in the top 10 of the Rolling Stones' greatest records of all time. Where it sits in that list, I don't know. But it's obviously absolutely majestic. Now, I've still got some more. Look at this. First time I've ever had this, and I'm very excited about it. It is the debut album by Little Richard called Here's Little Richard. Look at that back sleeve. Absolutely amazing. It's a Japanese press. I believe it's late 60s, maybe early 70s. It's in wonderful condition. And it's got the mono press on the specialty label. I played a bit of it earlier. It is bonkers good. Why do I love this record so much? Well, I think you can genuinely say that this record is the basis of modern rock and roll. This is the first person to kind of transcend and become something more. I mean, was he gay? Maybe. Was he camp? Kinda. Was he wildly talented and crazy, specially brilliant singer? Of course he was. But I mean, Little Richard came from Georgia. So he came from the deep south. He came from a place of gospel and blues and soul, but he turned it into something that was an absolute explosion of energy and raucous misbehavior, and everyone loved it. You know, leads the way to the Beatles, leads the way to Jimi Hendrix, leads the way to Elvis. Little Richard was first, and the thing about this record is you will know Tutti Frutti. Of course you will. Everyone does. Cultural kind of touchstone tune. It is by no means the best song on this album. This album is all killer, no filler, and can be completely enjoyed from start to finish. It didn't quite crack the top 10 in Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time. It was number 50. Personally, on my list, it would be higher than that. I love it. And what a great sleeve. Everything about it is just iconic. Look at this. And look what's to come. George Michael's Faith. Now, this record, I had to do the sums. I'm just looking it up. 36 of you have got this record now. So we're 14 short of it being full-on Shortcuts royalty. The only reason that it isn't is because it is just super hard to find, because people just do not sell this record. Why? The Japanese press is an absolute delight. It is so good to listen to. It's so precise. Because the music is sophisticated and emotional and complex, the warmth and just sheer quality of the Japanese vinyl just completely lets this record sing. Faith by George Michael. So many of you have got it. If you have a copy of this on Japanese vinyl, put a comment in the press and just let people know. This is another record that crosses genre. You've got pop, obviously, soul, funk. I mean, you can hear a little bit of rockabilly in a song like Faith that goes all the way back to Little Richard. It won Grammys through the wazoo. It was Record of the Year. Late 80s. I think it was released in 1989. It basically, every song was a hit single. It's just a defining record of the late 80s. And look at this that came in the Japanese press. Look at that. Just, what a beautiful human being. And so sadly missed. There you go. George Michael's Faith. Let's go a little bit louder. I had this record on the list about 6 weeks ago, and there were maybe, 10 inquiries. Unfortunately, this copy doesn't have the poster, but it's on the original Oyster label. It's the hard cardboard gatefold. It's in fantastic condition. It's a classic hard rock album. It's the record that, if you're a Led Zeppelin fan and you closed your eyes and you listen to some of the tunes on Rainbow Rising, you might think this is like the long lost Led Zepp classic. Brilliant album. Produced by Martin Birch, who then ended up producing a lot of Iron Maiden's classics. Just listen to Stargazer and turn it up as high as possible. One of the great heavy rock albums of all time. This is one that came in the UK collection. This is Deep Purple's. I think it's called a collector's album, the Mark II Purple singles. And the reason I'm calling it out for those of you who are Deep Purple fans, it is the only Deep Purple record I've ever seen that is pressed on purple translucent vinyl, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's a UK first press. It sounds amazing, especially if you're into the kind of so let's have a look. Smoke on the Water. There's a live side and a studio side. So the live side, Smoke on the Water, Black Night, Child in Time. There you go. And the studio side, Woman from Tokyo, Never Before, When a Blind Man Cries, and Painted Horse. So it's basically a compendium of the greatest Deep Purple singles from that era, pressed on purple vinyl. Super rare, hard to find, especially one in this condition. It's absolutely pristine. All right, I am going to continue to call out and glorify Mr. Harry Nilsson. This is a hard cardboard gatefold of the best of Harry Nilsson with a whole bunch of photographs and things in the internal booklet. It features everything that you might expect. Coconut, let's have a look. Everybody's Talking, Without Her, 10 Little Indians, Mr. Bojangles, and that's just side 2. Side 1, Without You, Rainmaker, The Puppy Song, and my favourite, Jump Into the Fire, which is used in Goodfellas. Just fantastic. Absolutely beautiful. Japanese only best of with Obi hard cardboard gatefold. And talking about gatefold, and another record that's in the Rolling Stones list of the best ever. This is Layla, an Assorted Love Song with the Japanese first press, 2LP. This is Shortcuts royalty. More than 50 of you have this record. People rave about it. It's fantastic. There's your opportunity to get another copy. Talking about Shortcuts royalty, there's one more here. My favorite pressing of Led Zeppelin 4. That's the P10125A pressing. If you don't have a Led Zepp 4, this thing's awesome. This is my go-to copy. I love it to bits. And I've got two very different records to finish on. One is a country record and one is a pop record. I'm going to start with the country. It is Me and Bobby McGee. Maybe the classic Chris Christopherson single, the Chris Christopherson song, maybe his best album as well. Chris Christopherson was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. He took poetry to country music, to my ears, and wrote some of the greatest country songs of all time. Vivid little songs of love, loss, regret, basically typical country music themes, but that resonant, deep voice, it's such a cool album. Honestly, it just makes you X% more cool to have Me and Bobby McGee by Chris Christopherson. You all know how much of a fan I am. I love him. He's sortiness. And finally, no one will call this record. This is Parade by Spandau Ballet. So let's just show you a couple of things. This is proper hard cardboard gatefold as well. What a sleeve this is. Look at that, complete with Obi. And there they all are. It has a couple of extra little bits and pieces too, including a poster. So let me just unfold it because it hasn't been unfolded many times. I can see that from the... But look at this. You're a Spandau Ballet fan. Look at that for a poster. Pretty cool. This thing's in absolutely pristine condition. I think they were synth pop more than anything else. From London, part of the new romantics scene. But, quite sophisticated songwriting and really, really good production qualities, particularly when you get to an album like Parade, where they really did try and mature their sound. Commercially massive in Europe. I don't think so much in the US, but that's Parade by Spandau Ballet. There you have it. That's the pop, country, what else do we have? Rock and roll, heavy rock, and classic rock list. If you would like to be on the price list to try and buy any of those records, they're all going to be available 9 p.m. this Wednesday, Sydney time. Drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com if you'd like to be on the price list. Thank you so much, and watch out for the genre list to come. It's an absolute cracker.